Hi. So I want to start doing more of like a vloggy thing where I talk about things for a little bit longer. And kind of, I've done a lot of like what's in my knitting bag, those videos. I kind of want to keep doing those, but I'm going to combine them with some finished objects when I have smaller finished objects. And also maybe talk about books that I'm reading, because I'm really big on the booktubes and I have a lot of opinions. So let's start with what I've finished recently. I want to talk about two things that I've finished recently. So the first thing, I'm just about to list these on Etsy actually. Hopefully by the time this video goes up, they'll be on stitchandwitchdesign.etsy.com. But I did what I'm calling kind of 4-season scrunchies. So I did 4 scrunchies, and this one is white, and then this one is blue, the orange, and the Christmassy ones like green and red. So I kind of imagine like winter, fall, maybe spring and summer, because citrus and summer, I don't know, this just looks like citrus to me. I made one of these for myself too, and I've been wearing it all week long. So I did these 4 scrunchies, and I'm just gonna list them. These were like quick little, I had just finished the Easy Goes It shawl. I've been working on my bigger on the inside shawl, which I will talk about in a few minutes, and I needed something quick and brainless to knit while I was, you know, nannying and standing on playgrounds and stuff. So I threw together 4 scrunchies. I'm gonna list those soon. I really love these as little stash busters. I like to do them in cotton. These are all in that Lillian, why do I never remember the name of that stuff? I'll put it here. These are all in that stuff. So, and they're just really great, like little quick, they give you that good feeling that you finished something, right? So I did those. And then the other thing I did recently, the other small thing I finished recently, which I showed on TikTok and Instagram, is my Airpod case. So I actually made a comment to my friend the other day. I was like, I would like all the hours of my life back that I've spent searching for my AirPods in the bottom of my bag. It's constant. Like I'm constantly digging through the bottom of my bag for my AirPods. So I made this little case. It's with this leftover, this is a cotton yarn too, actually. I honestly don't remember what it was. I feel like I have it written down though. So if I do, I'll link it somewhere. But this is a cotton yarn. I had this little hedgehog button that was like in a set of buttons that I got in my Christmas stocking one year or something. And I made it with this little loop so that I can loop it around the handle of my little tiny tote bag, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I loop it around the handle of my little tiny tote bag, and then I can just tuck it inside with it looped around the handle, and I don't have to worry about losing my AirPods, and they're easy to pull out. I think there's a cat hair on my nose. So that's my other finished project that I've recently done. I really love how it came out. I did it really quick. I did like a, I did it from the bottom up. I did a Judy's Magic cast on, like you would for a toe up sock. Cast on 6. I increased a couple of times. I think when I was done, I had 6 on each needle. So 6 times 4, 24. So, and then I just did it up, and then I decreased just a couple of stitches around the top here to kind of hold it in a little better, and finished it off with this I-cord handle. It was super easy, super fast. I did it in like 15 minutes while I was, you know, like, I don't know, it's probably a little longer than 15 minutes, but I did it really fast while I was waiting in a doctor's office for somebody. Super fast little project. Super happy with how it came out. Love it. So those are my 2 finished objects since I last did a video. I did do a video about my Easy Goes It shawl. Love my Easy Goes It shawl. That was my last big finished object. And I think going forward, I'm still going to do a video, like an exclusive video about any large projects. But I kind of want to talk about these littler ones in this sort of more vloggy setup. So what's on my needles right now? So I am, of course, still working on my, well, actually, let's start here. So this little bag. So I was looking at those, backwards. Little bag. I've had this bag for a million years. I vaguely remember somebody giving it to me. I want to say it was like a gift because I was in a wedding party or something along those lines. I honestly cannot remember where this bag came from for the life of me, but I I've had it for a million years. It's got my little K on it. I love it. It's really cute. It held my sunglasses for probably over 10 years. Like, as long as I've known my wife, my sunglasses have lived in this, and they've hung in my closet. I recently have been kind of paring through my stuff and throwing some stuff out. I threw out like 7 pairs of sunglasses that I never wore. Actually, I didn't throw them out. I put them in a giveaway box. I'm going to give them to somebody because I'm just not wasteful enough to throw them out. I just can't. But I gave away like a whole bunch of sunglasses because I just don't ever wear them. And I'm thinking about how much stuff I own, which is a story in and of itself. I might tell it a little bit depending on where this goes. So in this I have my travel around crafts, and the reason I did it in this is because I can kind of treat it like one of those knitting, which I'm in the process of making one of those knitting wrist bags, but in the meantime I'm using this, and I can just loop it on my arm. My yarn can go in there and I can carry around my projects. So I've been working on, I've got 2 actually in here. This tiny little bag has 2 projects and leftover yarn from Scrunchies. So this is a pair of hand warmers that I'm working on. I don't have very much of this yarn. I can't remember what this yarn is called, but I know I have that one written down, so I'll definitely link that. I bought this yarn because I did this hat as a test knit for Corrado Lark. He was fantastic to work with. I absolutely loved it. I would definitely do 1,000 more test knits for him. He was so sweet. And I love that hat. I wear it. I have the 2 hats that I wear all winter long, and that's one of them, and kind of a lot in the fall too, because it's just right for that. I wear it constantly, and I've had this little bit of this leftover yarn from that project forever, and I kept thinking I really wanted to make something to match the hat. So I'm working on these hand warmers. I'm doing them knuckle up, so they're gonna loop like this. I have no pattern. I just kind of guessed to cast on and went from there. So I'm almost at the point where I will reconnect this. I might go back and add a thumb later. I actually have this alpaca. I believe this is, wow, I have no memory of any of the names of any of the yarns today. I'll just link everything, okay? So I have this alpaca, this black alpaca, that I figured when I run out of this yarn, I will switch to this if it's not quite long enough, and I'll probably use this for the thumb. And give myself little hand warmers. My office here that I'm in right now is really cold in the wintertime. My house is 200 years old. This room gets really cold. So when I'm in here writing, I like to have hand warmers. And it'll match my hat. So that'll be super cute. And then the other thing I'm working on, I think I maybe have brought this up before. I'm not even sure. I'm working on these yoga socks. These ones are in my little, my striped tangerine needle holders. Working on these yoga socks for a very special person. And this is a yarn that was like a sock of the month subscription yarn that a friend of mine got, and the colors didn't fit her, or she didn't like them or whatever, and she mailed it to me. She actually mailed me two sets of it. So I did 1 pair of socks for my wife, and I'm working on this pair for my friend, my special sister. So I have those in there, in that little bag. What else? So I'm working on those. I'm just going to put everything back because my desk is messy enough. And then show you the progress I've made on the figure on the inside shawl. So this shawl, I've never done a shawl like this. I think I talked about this last time I brought this up. I've never done a shawl like this. It's a little bit of a different style for me because it's knit left to right. Like, that's not a big deal. Oh, this is the front. That's my little stitch marker to show me which side is the right side. So it's knit left to right, but what gets me about this shawl is it's knit left to right, and then after you knit the left to right part, you pick up and knit along the entire bottom ridge. When I get to like the finished object video about this shawl, I am absolutely positive I'm going to have a lot of opinions about that. If anybody has any tips and tricks about picking up and knitting that many stitches, it's like 100 and something stitches I have to pick up and knit along that bottom ridge, and I'm kind of dreading it. I did think I was going to maybe use clip-on stitch markers to mark like the middle point and the quarter point and the quarter point and do the math so that I can make sure I'm getting like an even number of stitches across. because I'm a little bit nervous. That's what I'm nervous about. I feel like a lot of times when I pick up a knit, this is why I do all my socks toe up, is because picking up and knitting along the heel, I always have like extra stitches or too many stitches or not enough stitches, like something count wise. I don't know. It's a thing I struggle with. Anyway, dreading that. But I'm on the decreases of the left to right. I've done the middle part. I'm on the decreases. I'm going to be in the car for a really long time tomorrow in the passenger seat, so I'm hoping I can get a lot done on that then. So that is that project. And then I have had a case of cast-on-itis. So I finished that Easy Goes It shawl. I did those 4 scrunchies. I did the Airpod case. I had already cast on the socks, but I cast on those gloves, and then I just started like wanting to cast on everything, and I made myself stop a little bit just for a minute because I'm not positive exactly on the patterns I want to use, and so I want to talk about that for a minute. So I have 2 bigger projects that I want to start. One of them is this one. So I have this Lion brand Landscapes acrylic. It is the softest. It's almost like, oh, actually it kind of really is like roving. It's super soft. I've worked with it before. I actually made a poncho with this for a friend of mine's wedding, and I have some left over, and I think I have enough to do Gigi Gay Gillespie's what is that called, the something poncho, the orange love poncho, I think it's called. I think I'm going to try to do that with this for my wife. The orange love poncho, my wife is a bigger person, and it actually has like, I think it's sized up enough that I think she will really like that. These are very much her colors. She loves blue and teal, and I think she's going to love that. So I have that in this bag ready to go. I'm going to start casting that on, I think, very soon. And then my other big project is for me. And it's not, maybe not 100% decided yet. So this is in my 31 bag, which I've shown you guys before. I have, oh look, orange cotton and purple. Oh, I have little remnants of scrunchies in here. So I have this yarn. I used 1 skein of it to make a cowl for one of my mentors when I graduated from my MFA program. I did knitted gifts for all of my mentors from my MFA, and I don't even know where this yarn came from, but somebody gave it to me at some point. It's a Lamb's Pride worsted. It's 85% wool, 15% mohair, and I have 4 skeins for sure, and then I have this ball, which is definitely bigger than a skein because I have a skein wound up, and it's like 20%. I think I did the math and it was like 20% larger. So I'm thinking this must be a full skein plus the leftovers of the cowl that I did. I guess that's got to be where this came from. I can't figure out why this one ball would be so big compared to the others. But anyway, if I'm doing my math right, and if that is indeed how much yarn is in that giant ball, I think I have about 950 yards, which at my size is not enough for a full sweater, according to every pattern. I've only made a couple of sweaters for myself, and I didn't keep very good notes on them. I've never made myself a worsted weight sweater. I made my sister a worsted weight sweater, and I made my other sister a worsted weight vest, but I've never made myself a worsted weight sweater. So I honestly don't know how much yarn I need for myself for a sweater. So my plan is, I think I'm going to do, I found this pattern called Brick from sewknit.com, and it's just like a simple cardigan. I mean, a simple pullover. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this. It's a top down pullover. I'm going to start it from the top down like it is, you know. Oh, they made it with Brooklyn tweed. I wonder if that's where I found this. I don't know. I've had it around. But I think I'm going to start it from the top down. And after I get past like the sleeve holes, I will do the sleeves and then just use whatever's left to do the rest of the sweater. I really like a longer sweater, so I may regret that decision. or something. We'll see what happens. I've looked through my yarn. I really don't have anything that matches this. I don't have anything else that's mohair right now. I really don't want to purchase yarn right now. I have a lot of things going on in my life that make it so I don't really want to purchase yarn right now. I'm trying to pay off some stuff. So I don't want to buy more yarn to match this. It's also like a weird color to match. This colorway is called Pine Shadows, and I don't know how well you can see that color. Wait, let me put something white behind it so it doesn't color correct. Maybe that will work. So I don't know how well you can see that color, but it's weird. It's like, I mean, it's like a green. I mean, it's definitely green, but it's like got a bluish hue to it. And then there's these gray, the mohair is like gray silvery. I don't know. I looked through all my stuff. I had nothing that, even if I switched to something that wasn't mohair, I have nothing that looks right with it. So I kind of gave up on that idea and decided that I'm just going to work with what I have here. And we'll see. I could go on Ravelry and see if anybody else has any and wants to trade a ball of yarn for skein or something, because I really only need like one more skein to make it a full sweater. Maybe I'll see how long the sweater turns out to be. But yeah, I'm definitely going to cast that one on probably this week. I need size 7 circulars to cast it on. For some reason, I have a million. Let me show you. I have so many circular needles, and for some reason I don't have a size 9. Let's see if you can see them. So hanging there, see that? That is not all of them. Like, there's a ton in these bags. There's like 4 in this bag with this yarn just like hanging out in here. Plus I've got my Knitter's Pride sets. I have a 10 in a Knitter's Pride. Maybe I go down a size on the pattern and go up on the needles and make myself a little bit of a looser knit sweater. See how that works out. I don't know. It's a big like experiment right now. But I really love that yarn and I really want something to wear in it. And I feel like it's going to be a really nice one for this winter if I can get it cast on. So those are my knitting projects right now. I'm also sewing, oh, I didn't bring it in here, but I'm sewing myself a bag, one of those little wrist knitting bags, with some, I had some leftover Halloween fabric from making masks last year. But my sewing machine's acting up. I may actually end up hand sewing it, which wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's really small. I mean, I'm literally making it like as small as can be just to hold a pair of socks when I'm hanging out on the playground with the kids that I nanny. So I think I'm going to, if I can't get my sewing machine to stop acting up, it's like the needle's slightly off or something, and I just don't have it in me to, for some reason I have it in me to hand sew an entire bag, and I don't have it in me to fight with the sewing machine. Whatever. I might end up hand sewing the bag, but it won't take very long because it's a very small bag. So I'm working on that. That's my sewing project right now. And of course I'm doing all of these, like I'm always doing my Cricut projects, and I've got stickers up like all over. I've got so many commission sticker projects to do right now. I'm doing one for my sister. I'm doing one for my aunt. I'm doing a couple for Etsy customers. I've got Cricut projects all over the place. Oh, and I'm gonna make myself a shirt. There's this, you know, the episode of the Gilmore Girls with the knitting, like we all know that episode, right? The episode with the knitting competition. Lorelai's wearing a shirt in that episode that's like, I can't remember exactly what it says, but I'll put a picture. I'm gonna have so many pictures to add to this. I've just created like a vlog that's gonna have tons of editing because I keep saying I'm gonna add things in, right? That I can't remember. This is why I should keep better notes. But anyway, so I'm going to make myself a t-shirt of that. I actually have a black t-shirt and I got some white vinyl, iron-on vinyl or heat transfer vinyl, and I'm gonna make myself the Gilmore Girls knitting t-shirt. It has like a skull on it. It's cool. The last thing I want to talk about is what I've been reading. And I really like the various booktubes. I watch a lot of those channels. I could even link a couple below that I really particularly like, but I thought that I would start talking about the books I read because I read a lot. I keep very specific notes about everything that I read. I have a Goodreads account that I have been on for, I don't know, like 15 years. I don't know, I've been on there forever. I might have mentioned before that I'm doing the Gilmore Girls reading challenge. So I've been reading a lot of books lately that are classics, because there's a lot of classics on that list. I'm currently working on Fahrenheit 451 by Kurt Vonnegut. I haven't gotten very far. I'm maybe like 3 chapters in. I'm going to go in order from the last one I read to like maybe when I read Anna Karenina, because I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about I want to talk about a few different books. So I just finished From the Dust Returned by Ray Bradbury. I have loved From the Dust Returned. Let me rephrase. I'm saying the wrong word. I have loved Ray Bradbury for a really long time. The Illustrated Man is amazing. I love it. So many of his books I love. For some reason, I had never read From the Dust Returned, and I was like 8 pages in. I borrowed it from the library. I was 8 pages in, and I went on my Bookmooch account, which if you haven't checked out Bookmooch, I'm not sponsored by anybody, you guys. Like, all these things I list, it's just because I love them. Bookmooch.com. On Bookmooch, you can give away the books that you don't want anymore. You get points for giving away books, and then you can request books from other readers who have books that you want, right? So I use Bookmooch all the time. And I was like 3 chapters into From the Dust Returned, and I went on Bookmooch and added it to my wish list, because I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I can't believe nobody told me to read this, especially everybody who knows how big of an Addams Family fan I am. Not necessarily the films. I'm actually a really big fan of the TV show, and although I like the films, but I'm a really big fan of the TV show of the Addams Family. So I couldn't believe when I started reading it that nobody had told me to read this book. And there's really not a lot I can say about it without like giving away. It's quirky, it's weird, it's completely nonsensical in places in ways that I love. It's a great book. I want to reread it 700 times. Loved it. So I read that. I read The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. That was all right. It was cute. I'd heard a lot of people talking about it, and it was a cute concept. Very predictable. A little sad. I finished Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, which is a tome. That book is huge. And I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it. I mean, I like classics, but it seemed so big and so dense that I was like, I'm gonna drag my feet through this, right? But after a couple of chapters, I really kind of got lost in the world of these aristocrats and really fell in love with that book. I fell in love with like the atmosphere of it. I was switching between reading it on an ebook and listening to an audiobook. I was kind of doing both because it is so big. But also because I just didn't want to come out of this world. I kind of like lost myself in it for a few weeks there. Not even. I think it took me like a week and a half. Like, I really couldn't put this down. It took me longer than that according to my Goodreads, because the first couple of chapters I really took slowly, but once I got going, I read like the rest of it in a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I read The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. That was on the Gilmore Girls reading list. If that was not on the Gilmore Girls reading list, I probably wouldn't have read it, because I feel like, I don't know, it just didn't seem like, it seemed like kind of a chick lit book that I wouldn't really be into. It was good. It was really good. I felt like it was a bit tropey. Quite a few of the characters, especially the black women, didn't have enough of their own story. They felt like they were there to serve the white protagonist in ways that kind of bothered me. And I don't know, maybe I'm completely alone in this. I feel like for a while there, everyone was talking about that book. I felt like I was reading about characters I'd already read about. And I felt like I was reading about characters who were just there to serve one character, which bothered me. Although, I mean, it's told in first person, and if we are the center of our own story, of course everyone around us is there to serve our story, right? So maybe from a literary perspective, I get that. This is why I don't critique books. I read The Diviners, Libba Bray. I only have like 2 more I want to talk about. I read The Diviners by Libba Bray. And I'm currently reading the sequel to that. It's like a trilogy, I think, so I'll go through all 3 of them. Love it. Love it. Love it. Victorian, or no, 1920s New York City magic and fortune telling, and love it. So good. The sequel that I just started centers around a disease going through Chinatown in New York City, causing all of the rest of New York City to be very afraid of Chinese people, which, hello, COVID. But the book was written in 2014 or something like that. So anyway, loving it. It's really good. A bit close to things. And then I have two nonfiction ones I want to talk about. I read Casey Davis's How to Keep House While Drowning. 31 days of something. 31 days of, let me see what it says. 31 days of compassionate help. I've been telling everybody I know to read this book, especially people I know who have ADHD or autism. Read this book. Read this book if you struggle with your housework. Read this book if you struggle with being kind to yourself. It is, I read it in 20 minutes. It's little. It's like, I wish I still had it here. I borrowed it from the library, and it's another one I plan to definitely purchase for myself. Yeah, read this book. It's amazing. And alongside that, I am currently listening to the audiobook of The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, which I had heard talked about on so many times, talked about on the Dear Handmade Life podcast. And I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. I started it yesterday. It's like a 5.5 or 6 hour audiobook. It's not very long. I actually went halfway through it, went back to the beginning and re-listened to a chunk, and then skipped back to the middle, and now I'm like 3/4 of the way. I just keep going back and forth with it. I've been doing a lot of like kind of questioning my career plans, my future, my whatever, for multiple reasons, kind of has been on my mind, and this is just a perfect like addition to that thought process. So he talks in this book, I just wanted like just a quick run through, like basically what he's talking about in this book is how to identify your zones, and he talks about your zone of competence, so the things you're competent at, but other people can also do those things. Your zone of, I don't know, there's a bunch of them, but then the top one is your zone of genius, and your zone of genius is the thing that you and only you kind of provide to the world, the thing you really excel in, the thing that lights you up, the thing that makes you feel good. And so I've been thinking about that a lot, about what my zone of competence is. And I mean what my zone of genius is. I clearly is not remembering these things or the names of my yarn. But yeah, so that's The Big Leap. And then, like I said, I'm reading Lair of Dreams. I'm reading Slaughterhouse 5. Yeah, Slaughterhouse 5. And then I also started reading, I have this old collection of short stories from the New Yorker. And it's short stories that were published in the New Yorker in the first, like, I think 15 or 20 years that the New Yorker was a magazine. I just kind of been reading one of those here and there. It's kind of good. Interesting. They're very short back then. Not a lot of, like, character development or story arc to a lot of them, which I find really interesting as a short story writer. So yeah, that's my reading. So I've got my knitting, I've got my reading. Was there anything else I wanted to cover? General life stuff. We own a 200-year-old house. I've mentioned that, right? My house is really old. We've been living on the second floor of the building since we bought it about 4 years ago. We have half of the first floor is an apartment that we rent out. And then we also use the other half sort of, we haven't because of COVID, but we primarily used it for entertaining. We hosted Reiki classes down there and stuff. It's a really big room that originally, historically was used to actually host funerals in. The house was owned by the undertaker. And so we have this giant room down there. I mean, it's big enough that it has 2 fireplaces. So it's this giant room that's great for hosting events and stuff. And that's what we were doing with it. And then COVID happened. We stopped using that room. It literally for a year and a half it's held stuff. It held a bunch of tools that were being used to do a construction project when COVID began, and we had to shut everything down for a while. And now it's holding like my wife's candle making supplies. So what we're actually going to do is our tenants in our apartment downstairs, who's actually my cousin and her husband, are moving out. And we are going to move downstairs primarily. I'm still keeping this room on the second floor, and we're keeping one other room on the second floor, and we're actually going to open up the whole building, I think, to having roommates instead of renting out the apartment. We're going to put a door in and actually open the whole first floor up and live down there for a couple of reasons. We have an older dog. She's 10 now. She'll be 10 in a month and a half. Stairs are rough on her now because she's getting old and she's small. She's only 10 pounds. And we have a baby dog who is a dachshund, a mini dachshund. You've seen her on my videos probably. And definitely, like, she's all over my Instagram. And her little legs are too short to do the stairs. So between the two of them, like when I have to take them out in the morning, I'm carrying them both down the stairs all the time, which is a lot of work. So we're going to move down to the first floor for multiple reasons, but that is one of them, is definitely the dogs. So I might get a little bit behind on videos and podcasting, like I'm ever caught up on podcasting. Whatever. I have an episode that's almost ready. I had so many technical issues with this episode, you guys, but it's almost ready. But I might get a little bit behind because of that. Hoping to keep up. We shall see. Anyway, that's everything I wanted to talk about today. Let me know in the comments what you guys are working on, what your projects are. Tell me if you have any tips and tricks for the picking up 100 and plus stitches on my Bigger on the Inside shawl, because I'm really stressing out about how that process is going to go. It's scary, you guys. What are your tips? Tell me. Scared. All right. That is it. Have a great day. Don't forget to craft outside the circle.